Let's look at what we need to know to write a really good inverted pyramid story. So we have to develop a brain shaped like an inverted pyramid. That's going to help us to think, regardless of the way that we tell the story and the platform that we use. So, whether we use a news story, a feature story, a broadcast story, a social media story, a photo, all of these things require an inverted pyramid shaped brain. So, you have to ask yourself a few questions before you start to write, especially these two questions. The first one is, what happened? Right? Can you answer the question in one sentence? What would you text your friend if you were going to tell your friend that same information? Usually that's a great place to start. In fact, it's amazing how often we think in inverted pyramid shaped thoughts when we text people information because we tell them what we need to know in that moment. Any details we can save for later depends on the time that we have. So we're going to use this type of thinking in our communication often with our family and friends. The second question is, why does it matter? So, why does it matter to your audience? It helps for you to know your audience. So, our audience will be us, will be the LSU community. And then, what is the impact? So, why would the audience need to know this information? Why would the audience want to know the information? And sometimes that's going to determine how you start the story. So, one thing that we're going to do here is we're not going to spend a lot of time thinking and ruminating. Give yourself a few minutes and then you get started. So, what's an inverted pyramid? We need to answer that question. And why is the inverted pyramid important to the reader? What is a lead? So, your lead is going to be the top of your story. And why is the lead important? So, these are important concepts to understand in any type of media communication. Again, it doesn't matter what platform you use, you're going to have to think this way. So now we look at the inverted pyramid. That's really just an upside down triangle, is what it is, because we start with the most important information and we go to the least important information. Now, life doesn't happen this way, life is chronological. So it's going to require a little bit of different thinking about how you put information together. But this is going to help you to be able to decide and to understand what the story is about. So all inverted pyramid shaped thinking requires that you answer the 5 W's and the H. So if you remember those W's and H from grade school, where they're back again and they're not going away for sure. So you want to start your story with the answer to those questions. Who? And that's going to be an important part of your story. Often the who does the action described in the story. Now, the who doesn't always have to be a person either. It can be something that doesn't have a brain, right? A tree or a train or a hurricane that caused the situation. So you can start with those. I actually feel like it's easier sometimes if we go with what caused the situation in the first place. So your who did what. So the what is going to be your verb. That's going to be the action that happened. When did it happen? So news stories have an element of timeliness because news means what's new, what just happened. And so the when is going to be an important part here. Now, one thing that you're going to learn in AP style is that we don't use yesterday, today, and tomorrow in web writing and print writing. We're going to use the day of the week because that makes more sense to the audience. Using yesterday, today, tomorrow works really well in broadcast because we are watching the announcer as he or she speaks, and so we understand what today means. But in other cases, we really need to know the day of the week. We don't need the date. Most news happens in a timely manner, so it happens within the week that it occurs. Where is important. Sometimes the when and the where are not that crucial, but if there's a where and we need to know that, then that's going to be in the lead. And then the why and the how are the interesting parts of the story, and it's what your audience is going to want to know. So you need to at least begin to introduce that in your lead. The story is going to take a little bit more time to explain the why and the how. but you want to at least tell us what that means. Now, the lead is going to be your first paragraph of the story. So, for our writing, for news writing, until we start feature writing, we're going to write, our lead's going to be one paragraph, and that paragraph is going to be one sentence. And that's going to be 30 to 35 words max. Active voice, right? So, who does what? Start with that, and you'll always write an active voice. No intro phrases or clauses. So, you can't start with the when or the where. That has to be in the middle of the sentence somewhere. That's not interesting. Your editor's always going to make you move that. So let's go ahead and start with that. Intro means we're going to have, say, on Wednesday, comma. That's an intro phrase. So we're not going to use that. We're going to move all that information to the middle of the sentence. If we start with who did what, then we won't have an intro phrase, and we'll write an active voice. So this is what I'm talking about. Our tendency is to want to do that because we don't know what to do with the when. It's kind of a problem child. But move that to the middle and ask yourself who is the who here. So who did what? Now remember, your who can be something other than a person, right? So let's go ahead again and look at the shape of our story. So here's your lead. That's your most important information. You get one sentence, remember, 30 to 35 words, no intro phrases or clauses, and actually no semicolons in your lead. Let's not do that. That's just a way to kind of try to get two sentences in there, so we're not going to do that. And then your second paragraph, and I call those graphs, that's whatever you couldn't fit in that 30 to 35 words, right? Usually you have some more of the when or the where maybe, or actually the why and the how is going to be your time-consuming piece of information. You have up to 4 type lines for your second paragraph and all subsequent paragraphs. So those can be more than one sentence. Your lead is limited, right? Now your second paragraph can be shorter than 4 type lines, and that's just 4 lines across the page, right? That will be multiple sentences. In the short stories that we are going to write for the next few stories, you're going to have a very short second paragraph. So don't feel like you have to save information for that second paragraph. Go ahead and make your story top heavy, and then your second paragraph is going to be very short. And some of these stories, you can almost fit everything in the lead. These really short stories. I know that's unusual for what you're used to doing up to this point, but you'll get used to it, and it's going to be second nature. It's not going to be a problem to you. Now later we'll do stories with multiple paragraphs. So that's going to be your next most important information, 4th paragraph, so on and so forth, right? So the lead's going to answer as many of the W's and H's as you can, and then that's going to be, the reason that we do it this way is for our audience. There's a lot of reasons to write an inverted pyramid. The most important, though, is the audience, because the audience is going to read the lead, and that's it. And so you giving them everything they need to know right away. And then also the headline comes from the lead. So you might write your own headline, or sometimes someone else will, but that person's going to look at the lead to decide what goes in the headline, right? So sometimes online the lead appears apart from the rest of the story, or the headline does. So this is top heavy. It's going to really give us the information. So the purpose of the story is to inform, it is to entertain, and also maybe to give direction or information about what to do next. And so your audience understands that first paragraph is going to be everything I need to know there. And then the second and subsequent paragraphs, remember, are going to be 4 type lines max. That's usually multiple sentences. In fact, you don't want a 4-line sentence. That's way too long, especially for writing for the web. Your sentence is going to be shorter than usual. So long sentences you can often break up into 2 parts, right? So that's basically it. So let's go ahead and practice this on our next story. And it's going to be not long before you have an inverted pyramid-shaped brain.